Chapter 0031 Kicked to the Iron Plate. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The attack was deflected, and Liuza's body flashed, and the long sword in his hand kept swinging, and the sword light struck Qianqiu wildly. Yanagisawa's strength is there. She has reached the peak of the 3rd level and can break through to the 4th level at any time. Coupled with the assistance of the 4th level weapons, her attack has indeed reached the peak of the 3rd level, and even reached the 4th level. However, the onlookers discovered something strange. Yanagisawa's attack was like a violent storm, but Qianqiu, shrouded in sword energy and sword light, was like a rock in the waves, not moving at all. The long sword in his right hand was swung with basic sword moves. His moves were like flowing water, each move easily defeated Yanagisawa's violent attack. Many people don't understand this situation. When did basic swordsmanship become so powerful? Then the leaders of each peak told the disciples that Qianqiu's basic swordsmanship had surpassed the master level and was only one step away from the great perfection. Although it was basic swordsmanship, it had the effect of turning decay into magic. Although it was explained in this way, the senior officials from various peaks who were watching were very puzzled. Basic swordsmanship is really powerful after practicing to a certain level, but you can't attack Yanagisawa's weak points again and again, right? No one thinks about the sword spirit realm, because it is impossible. The Qinyan sect has been established for thousands of years, and there are only 2 people who control the sword spirit realm. One is the founder of the sect, and the other is the supreme elder Mo Daozi, who is not concerned about worldly affairs. Can the handyman understand? The answer is yes. The battle was still going on. Yanagis was very exhausted during the violent attack, but Qianqiu had no problems at all. Go to hell. Yanagisawa's sword technique changed, a bloody light appeared on the long sword, and she performed the blood evil sword technique. Shameless. Luozhen cursed. Not only Luozhen, many people saw that Liuza's swordsmanship was the unique skill of Su Shanhe, the master of the main peak. Qianqiu felt the changes in Yanagisawa's sword moves, the movement of energy in his body, and the changes in the basic swordsmanship. He started to attack. Before, he had just cracked Yanagisawa's swordsmanship and then stopped, in order to familiarize himself with his own swordsmanship. Not anymore. After the basic swordsmanship is deployed, take the initiative to attack. Ding. Ding. The sound of long sword handovers continued to be heard. Qianqiu's main attack was still basic swordsmanship, but it posed a great threat to Yanagis. Yanagis swung his sword to defend, but every time the 2 weapons collided, Qianqiu's long sword had a small change, and then he attacked the place where Yanagisawa's sword was least vulnerable. Dang. Following Qianqiu's powerful slash, Lu Zei's sword flew out. At this time, Qianqiu punched Lu Zei in the face with his left hand, knocking Lu Zei to the ground. The long sword was pressed against Yanagisawa's throat. Yanagis lost. The peak inner disciple of the main peak lost to the handyman of Qingzhou peak. This made the disciples of the main peak look extremely ugly. It was embarrassing, so embarrassing. If you dare to kill her, you will definitely die. Zhang Ji pointed at Qianqiu. Let him go, and I will make your death not ugly. Qian Qing and Lu Nan appeared. Qianqiu looked up to the sky and exhaled. Originally, I thought things were almost okay. Qinyan Peak and Qingzhou Peak are both Qinyan sects, but now it's no longer possible. You don't know how to restrain yourself. Even if you lose, you can still show off your power with confidence. This makes me no way. I'm not threatened. After Qianqiu finished speaking, he flicked his wrist and cut off Liuza's neck with his long sword. It was not just for his own sake at this time. He gave up, which meant that Qingzhou Peak was afraid. You deserve to die. Lu Nan drew his sword in his hand and walked towards Qianqiu. It's shameful for the core disciples to attack the handyman disciples. If you want to fight, I, Yan Yi, want to see what you are capable of. Yan Yi walked out from the disciples of Qingzhou Peak. Qianqiu won and has already done what he said. It was very good that he couldn't let all the pressure fall on Qianqiu. Lu Nan was a 4th-level practitioner and Qin Chu was a 2nd-level practitioner. No matter how powerful he was, he had no chance of winning. Yan Yi, are you going to interfere in this matter? This will not end well. Lu Nan looked at Yan Yi with fear in his eyes. Yan Yi is a very low-key person among the core disciples, but all the core disciples know that he is not easy to mess with. This is why Lu Zhe is unwilling to provoke Yan Yi despite being behind the scenes, and Lu Nan is not willing either. If there is no good result, then I will give it a try. Yan Yi looked at Lu Nan coldly, with disdain in his eyes, threatening people. Is it useful to threaten people at this time? Lu Nan is back. Xianxia appeared with a very bad expression on his face. Lu Zhe was killed by Qin Chu, and the main peak's face had been thrown to the ground. After looking at Xianxia, Lu Nan glared at Qin Chu, and then retreated to the main peak camp. At this time, Don Qing appeared. Qin Chu, I reminded you, if you provoke me, Don Qing, it will be difficult for you to die happily. We will see. You know it's useless to scare me, but you still come to scare me. Are you mentally ill? I, Qin Chu, are here. If you want to kill me, just go ahead. If you don't dare or can't, then get out of here. Can't afford it? Can't you afford to go to Qingzhou Peak to show off your power? You are just rubbish. If you dare to show your face, I, Qin Chu, will slap you. Looking at Xianxia, Qin Chu said something unceremonious. Xianxia's face was gloomy and he held the long sword in his hand. Try it, if you dare, let's see who can save your life today. Qin Chu is right, you guys are rubbish. Luozhen appeared, and the core disciples of the main peak wanted to take action one after another. Naturally, he would not do it again. Silence. Peak Master Luo, isn't it wrong for you to bully the small ones with the big one? Xianxia spoke. He knew that things would end badly. Luozhen had a bad temper. He had killed too many people before, but he had restrained himself in these years. Just a few. Luozhen smiled. What you said, Peak Master Su, is really interesting. The inner disciples of your main peak are fighting with the handyman disciples. If the core disciples want to take action against the handyman disciples, it doesn't count as bullying the small ones. This is considered bullying the small ones. What can you do if you bully the younger ones? Challenge. Luozhen, the master of Qingzhou Peak, challenged Xianxia, the master of the main peak. Everyone, stop saying a word. Let them solve the matters of the younger generation by themselves. Lei Yin appeared. She had been watching just now, but now she can no longer watch. There is no way she can let the two peak masters of Qingyun sect fight. Qin Chu, you continue, whoever wants to bully the small today will die. Luozhen nodded to Qin Chu. When you, the inner disciples of the main peak, went to the Qingzhou Peak Miscellaneous Hall to show off your power, and you asked me to kneel down and apologize, you didn't think about it now, right? Now you either have to apologize to me, the Qingzhou Peak Miscellaneous Hall, or fight. Who is coming? Qin Chu glanced at the inner disciples at the main peak and said, the scene was very embarrassing. It was the inner disciples of the main peak who were embarrassed. Liuze, who had a 4th-level sword in his hand, was killed by Qin Chu, and the others couldn't do it either. If he doesn't, Qingyun Peak's face will be shattered. Come out. Qin Chu roared angrily as no one came to fight. Lei Yin and other senior officials of the 5 peaks who were watching shook their heads. The main peak was used to showing off its power, and this time it hit the iron plate. Chapter 0032 Exhale and raise eyebrows. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Come out and fight. Seeing that the inner disciples of the main peak did not move, Qin Chu shouted again. There was still no movement, and the lack of a response made the top management of the main peak look extremely ugly. There are no disciples from the main peak who can participate in the battle. This means that among the outer disciples and inner disciples of the main peak, less than 3 months after joining Qingzhou Peak, only the handyman disciples of the 2nd level condensing Yuan realm have been defeated and lost their temper. Qin Chu turned to look at Su Shanhe and Zhang Ji. You know, I am just a handyman disciple, but I am never afraid of fighting. If I lose, I lose. If I dare to fight, I can afford to lose. Let's look at your education, disciple. After finishing half of the sentence, Qin Chu did not continue, but everyone could think of what the second half of the sentence was about. You're going to die. Zhang Ji's face turned red and he wanted to crush Qin Chu to death right away, but he didn't dare to do it. There was no one left to fight. Qin Chu came to Yanagai's body. In the angry eyes of the main peak troops, he took away Yanagai's long sword and storage bracelet. The winner was eligible to have the war trophies. After collecting the spoils of war, Qin Chu turned around and looked at Bai Yu, Pang and other disciples of the Qinyan sect's miscellaneous hall. Did you see it? It's not shameful for us to be servant disciples. If anyone bullies us, we will beat them at their door. Fight until the other party is submissive. Let's call it a day after the fight. Also, our handyman hall is short of people. If you feel that it is boring to be an outer disciple and an inner disciple waiting to die, you can come to Qin Zhufeng's handyman compound to find me. Qin Chu, what's wrong with the handyman disciple? As long as you are right, you can go sideways. After successfully destroying the scene, Qin Chu left the main peak with the disciples from the Qinzhou Peak Handy Hall, not forgetting to make people sick before retreating. Aren't you disgusted? So disgusting. Qin Chu's words made Su Shanhe, Zhang Ji and others feel as uncomfortable as eating flies. Returning to the Qinzhou Peak Handyman compound, Qin Chu gathered all the handymen together. This time we are fighting for face, but we have also become the target of public criticism. There are many people who want to deal with us. Those who belong to Qinzhou Peak probably won't, but the official disciples of other peaks will certainly do it. Everyone must be careful when leaving Qinzhou Peak to do things. Be careful in your words and actions, and be a low-key person. In addition, when you go out to do tasks, don't be too ambitious. Do some tasks within your own capabilities, and first cultivate your own basics. Looking at the neatly organized handyman disciples standing in the handyman compound, Qin Chu expressed his analysis and opinions and also gave everyone a few words of advice. Qin Chu, I want to come to the miscellaneous hall. Lin Jing appeared, accompanied by several outer disciples. I want to thank you for standing with us servant disciples when we faced foreign enemies in the servant hall, but you don't have to come when people go to higher places. Qin Chu said to Lin Jing. Lin Jing shook his head. We are just walking towards higher ground. The treatment in the handyman hall is really not comparable to that of the outer disciples, but in the handyman hall we can understand some things other than fighting. To put it bluntly, can learn the momentum and spirit of the handyman hall. Lin Jing said his purpose. Then it depends on your wishes. Of course I hope you will come. After you come, you can take them on tasks so that they will not cross the river by feeling for stones. Pang, you can make arrangements. He told Pang. With just one sentence, Qin Chu left. He still had to reflect on today's battle. Watching Qin Chu leave, Pang's small eyes looked at Lin Zhang and the others. We welcome you, but I want to tell you something. There is only one handyman leader, and all our handyman disciples recognize one leader, and that is Qin Early. Of course, Lin Zhang and others have no problem. They are here for Qin Chu, to make progress, not to fight for anything. Qin Chu went to practice, and Lin Zhang and 4 other people went to the management office of the outer disciples and applied to be transferred to the miscellaneous service hall. This situation makes the outer disciples in charge worried. What kind of thing is this? In the past, it was the handyman disciples who struggled to become outer sect disciples. How could any outer sect disciple want to become a handyman disciple? Unable to make the decision, the steward of the outer disciples could only inform the elders. After learning what happened, the elders of Qinzhou Peak immediately held a meeting to study the matter. Even Luo Zhen was alarmed. At this time, Qinzhou Peak was involved in the handyman hall, which was not a trivial matter. Let them go. The handyman hall also needs some capable disciples to lead it. In the future, there will be another rule. New disciples of Qinyun Peak will be sent to the Handyman Hall to train for half a year before they become formal disciples. Luo Zhen said. After listening to Luo Zhen's words, several elders of Qingzhou Peak nodded in approval. The current Qingzhou Peak Miscellaneous Hall is indeed a place to train people. Not to mention the strength, there will definitely be improvement in personality and momentum. There are more people in Qingzhou Peak's Miscellaneous Hall. This year's new disciples have all entered the Miscellaneous Hall. These guys did have a sense of superiority before, but now they have lost their sense of superiority. Where is the Qingzhou Peak Miscellaneous Hall? It is the signature of Qingzhou Peak. It is more ruthless than the outer and inner gates of the main peak, and they are all willing to come. However, the newly joined handyman disciples could only see the little boss heir Pang and Baiyu, but they could not see Qin Chu. After returning from the battle on the main peak, Qin Chu has been practicing at the cliff, practicing his vitality and basic swordsmanship. As soon as he entered the second level, he was able to fight against the late second level Condensing Yuan Realm and the third level True Yuan Realm. Because of his good physical fitness, the gap between him and his opponent in vitality is very large, so he must improve his vitality as soon as possible. A month passed in the blink of an eye, and Qin Chu's vitality cultivation reached the second level of the Condensing Yuan Realm. At this time, he felt that his basic swordsmanship needed to be improved in actual combat. The main peak, Qinyun Peak, could no longer fight, so Qin Chu left the Miscellaneous Hall and went to the Qingzhou Peak Meritorious Hall to take on tasks. Seeing Qin Chu's arrival, the Qingzhou Peak disciples in the Hall of Merit all nodded to show their goodwill. No one had contempt in their eyes, because it was this handyman in a coarse robe who separated the outer disciples from the main peak and the inner disciples fight without temper. Who can do this? Qingzhou Peak has not been so proud in many years. Hello Mr. Law Enforcement Han, I'm here. Qin Chu arrived at the counter and greeted Mr. Law Enforcement Han. Qin Chu had a very good impression of Han Jizhu. Han Jizhu sent him to the main peak merit hall to complete tasks. He had no obligation to do so, so it was a favor to send him. Ha! You've been idle for a month. I'm not used to it now. Are you here to take over a task? Well, the tasks on the bulletin board have just been posted. Looking at Qin Chu, Law Enforcement Han had a full face. It was a smile, he admired Qin Chu so much. When he arrived at the mission release board, Qin Chu took some third-level monster crystal core missions. As for the second-level missions, there were some simple herb missions that he did not take. Qin Chu, didn't you do a good job in collecting the medicinal materials? Why didn't you take it? Law Enforcement Han asked with some confusion. Qin Chu had swept the tasks in the past. Leave some opportunities for everyone. I will take over all the tasks that are easy to do. The disciples of Qingzhou Peak have not had any simple tasks to do for a month. I can almost do it by myself. Qin Chu said the reason. After listening to Qin Chu's words, the Qingzhou Peak disciples in the Hall of Merit all bowed to Qin Chu. Many of them were inner disciples, and Qin Chu gained their respect. Chapter 0033 100,000 points. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After accepting the mission, Qin Chu left the Hall of Merit. Many people think that Qin Chu is overbearing and even a little indifferent. In fact, he is not. There are two kinds of people in his heart, one is others and the other is his own people. In the past, he only regarded the handyman disciples in the handyman courtyard as his own people. After the men and horses of Qingzhou Peak accompanied him to fight on the main peak, he regarded the people of Qingzhou Peak as his own. Law Enforcement Han said with a sigh. Han Jifa, I will treat him as one of my own. An inner disciple said. We will treat him as one of our own. All the Qingzhou Peak disciples expressed their feelings. Law Enforcement Han walked to the Merit Hall and looked at the various peaks of the Qingyun sect. In the past, the 7 peaks of the Qingyun sect were all our own people, but with the downturn of Qingzhou Peak in recent years, they are no longer their own people. They look down on and bully them. All are here. Why does Yanajais dare to go to the miscellaneous hall and act arrogantly? It's not because we are incompetent, so everyone has to fight for words. Just like Qin Chu said, whoever bullies us should hit the other party's door until the other party is convinced. Until. Many people think this is a kind of cruelty, but it is not. It is a kind of spirit and a kind of momentum. Elder Song came to the Hall of Merit and took out a stack of task lists and gave them to Han Enforcement. Holding the task list, Law Enforcement Han was stunned for a moment, because the sect had already sent a task list this month. Because we completed the task at Qingzhou Peak quickly, the Pill Pavilion and Qi Pavilion sent additional task orders to Qingzhou Peak. Our face and strength still need to be proven. Elder Song left the Merit Hall after leaving the task list. He felt a little sad in his heart that King Xiufeng's face was won back by a handyman. Hurry up and pick up the mission. I hope that the mission release board will be empty by the end of the month. Han Enforcement shouted at the Qingzhou Peak disciples in the Hall of Merit. The disciples of Qingzhou Peak all have excited expressions on their faces. What does this situation mean now? It shows that Qingzhou Peak is taken seriously. When Qin Chu arrived at Mian Mountain, he started his mission trip. This time, he specifically found monsters that lived in groups to fight and practiced his sword skills in group battles. Except for the 4th level monsters, he basically didn't have much pressure. Just being familiar with the magical effects of basic swordsmanship. He believed what Bai Yu said. The basic swordsmanship had a long history and was unique. After 6 days of fighting in Mian Mountain and collecting the mission items, Qin Chu returned to the Hall of Merit and handed in the mission. Qin Chu, you have made progress. Han Jifa looked at Qin Chu and said. Ha! Can Law Enforcement Han see that I have improved? Qin Chu was surprised. Law Enforcement Han smiled and said, before, when you went out to do a mission, you would be covered in blood when you came back. Now at least you can keep it clean. Qin Chu was embarrassed. I didn't know swordsmanship before and could only fight with my fists. Now I have a little understanding of swordsmanship, so I no longer need to fight like before. A little understanding. Hearing these words, Law Enforcement Han curled his lips, and the disciples in the Qingzhou Peak Hall of Merit also turned their heads and looked aside. This was too much of a pretense, because Luo Jin gave affirmation to Qin Chu's swordsmanship, and when it came to his understanding of swordsmanship, Qin Chu had already gained a lot of talent, and countless people might not be able to reach Qin Chu's heights in their entire lives. Qin Chu. You see, the thing is like this, because our Qingzhou Peak is valued, so we get more task lists, but if we can't complete them, then the number of task releases will return to the past. Now on the task bar there are still some tasks that no one can do and cannot be done. Law Enforcement Officer Han looked at Qin Chu. Qin Chu came to the task bar and took some of the more difficult tasks on it, such as the task of hunting the iron-scaled lizard and obtaining the iron-scaled lizard crystal core. No one was willing to do it and could not do it because it was a 4th level task. The task, and to obtain the heartless grass, you must pass through the habitat of the bloodthirsty wolves, and the leader of the bloodthirsty wolves is a 4th level monster. After receiving the task list and looking at Law Enforcement Han, Qin Chu smiled and said, remember to get me 2 jars of wine when you come back. After Qin Chu left, Law Enforcement Han looked at the Qingzhou Peak disciples in the Hall of Merit and did not say anything. He knew that he did not need to say anything. Seeing Qin Chu, the Qingzhou Peak disciples already knew how to work hard. Life was very stable. Qin Chu would appear in the Hall of Merit twice a month, once at the beginning of the month to pick up some task lists and leave, and again at the end of the month to complete some difficult tasks. Time flies, and in the blink of an eye, Qin Chu has been at Qingzhou Peak for 8 months. His cultivation has reached the 6th level of the 2nd order condensing yuan realm, and his mission points have reached hundreds of thousands. The points were obtained, but Qin Chu did not go to the library pavilion because he felt that the Tianyuan fragment scroll was very suitable for him. He wanted to continue practicing until he reached the peak of the 3rd level. As for combat skills, Qin Chu felt that basic swordsmanship was very good. After training, Qin Chu would sometimes go to the Qingzhou Peak martial arts arena to watch other Qingzhou Peak disciples compete. In the past at Qingzhou Peak, the status of the handyman disciples was very low. Now the status has changed, but some rules are still there. For example, the handyman disciples cannot run around, but Qin Chu is different. He is just like the shadowless man, no matter where he goes. Wherever, the law enforcement, law protectors and elders turned a blind eye, he could do whatever he wanted, no one cared about him at all. On this day, Qin Chu arrived at the martial arts arena and saw a group of inner sect disciples sparring. He stood aside and watched from a distance, trying to figure out how to break those sword moves that fell on him. Let's go and have a look, and we can also discuss things with you. Yan Yi appeared next to Qin Chu, and beside him stood a woman wearing a skirt. I'm not suitable. Although handyman disciples are not inferior to others, there are some things that handyman disciples can't do. Qin Chu shook his head. Don't you want to make progress? You can find your own shortcomings through competition. On the martial arts field, it's all about competition, regardless of status. Yan Yi said to Qin Chu. After thinking for a moment, Qin Chu nodded and followed Yan Yi to the martial arts arena. Qin Chu, can we spar? Seeing Qin Chu's arrival, an inner disciple looked at Qin Chu and said, although he was initiating a spar, his language was very respectful, refusing to fight. Qin Chu didn't know how to do this kind of thing. He nodded and came to the field, holding his fists towards Qin Chu. The inner disciple drew his sword and started to attack. With flat cuts, evil cuts, and straight thrusts, Qin Chu deflected the inner disciple's long sword, and then pressed the long sword in front of the inner disciple. Simple, neat, and done in one go. It's not to attack you, it's just like this in battle, so I can only do this. Qin Chu said to this inner disciple. The inner disciple looked at Qin Chu blankly, then stepped back with fists in his arms. Then several inner disciples took action, but under Qin Chu's basic swordsmanship, they couldn't withstand them at all. Xianluo Peak, Chu Yun, I heard master say that you rejected my master, now let me see your strength. The woman next to Yan Yi came to the field. It's not hostility, but Qin Chu felt that Chu Yun was dissatisfied. Chapter 0034 Transcendent Status. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Turning back to look at Chu Yun, Qin Chu sheathed his sword and walked out of the martial arts arena. Stop, what's wrong with you? Chu Yun's face turned ugly when Qin Chu ignored him. There are some things I don't want to say for his sake, but please accept your attitude. If you want to learn from each other, that's fine, but what does this have to do with me rejecting your master? Are you bringing the matter up to teach me a lesson? A discussion is a discussion, and a lesson is a lesson, and it cannot be confused. After Qin Chu pointed at Yan Yi, he explained why he was unwilling to take action. Chu Yun, we have a very good relationship. I have always stood on your side in the past, but this time Qin Chu is right. Yan Yi spoke. He knew that Chu Yun's attitude displeased Qin Chu, and Qin Chu everyone at Qingzhou Peak knows who he is at first, and he doesn't run away now to give him face. Yan Yi didn't want anyone to treat the Qingzhou Peak owner with a high profile, even Chu Yun, who he was pursuing. Chu Yun took a deep breath. Although it would be embarrassing to admit a mistake, what I just said was indeed inappropriate. Can we discuss it now? After listening to Chu Yun's words, Qin Chu returned to the field and lowered his attitude, so there was no need to make things too tense. Senior brother Yan and senior sister Chu, you are the core disciples. You are both at the 4th level of cultivation. Qin Chu is only at the 2nd level. An inner disciple said, mainly because he felt it was inappropriate. He didn't want to see Qin Chu being used by others. For bullying, Qin Chu shook his head at this inner disciple. Thank you, no matter how strong the opponent is, he will never let me lose the courage to draw the sword. Chu Yun drew his sword and pierced Qin Chu's chest with the sword. Qin Chu took a step diagonally with his feet, unsheathed his long sword, raised it diagonally, and hit the middle end of Chu Yun's long sword, the weakest point, breaking Chu Yun's attack and preventing Chu Yun from changing his moves. Of sweep, the long sword was deflected, and Chu Yun was surprised in her eyes, because Qin Chu's sword made her subsequent attacks unable to proceed smoothly. After taking a breath, Chu Yun's sword shook and he kept attacking Qin Chu. Qin Chu swung the long sword in his hand and started to defend. His defensive sword moves were like flowing clouds and flowing water, one move after another. Chu Yun's attacks were fierce and sharp, but there was no consistency. She could not break Qin Chu's rhythm. Even if the third level of vitality penetrated into the long sword, it could not deflect Qin Chu's long sword, and her attack rhythm was blocked. Totally broken, after swinging the long sword and sheathing it, Chu Yun clasped his fists at Qin Chu. I can't break your defense. I lose this sparring match. Chu Yun's attitude surprised Qin Chu. He thought Chu Yun would be angry, but there was no angry look on his face. There is no winner or lose in the competition. Please send a greeting to Master Lei Feng for Qin Chu. After putting away the long sword, Qin Chu left. He knew that Chu Yun did not use all his strength. His 4th level cultivation only reached the 3rd level. Degree. I have to say that those guys on the main peak did not lose unjustly. He is now in the 2nd level of condensing Yuan realm. Let alone the practitioners of the 4th level of Ling Yuan realm. No one in the 3rd level can defeat him. Chu Yun looked at Qin. Said the figure who had just left. Senior Sister Chu, Qin Chu started to do the 4th level mission a few months ago. He hunted a lot of 4th level monsters. An inner disciple of Qingzhou Peak said. Yanni looked at Chu Yun and smiled. Using a cultivation level below the 4th level to compete with him would be seeking abuse. Using a cultivation level above the 4th level to compete with him would make us a joke. After the assessment next year, he should become an inner disciple. He was promoted from a handyman to an inner disciple in 1 year. This fact is rare in the past history of Qingyun sect. Chu Yun said. Yanni shook his head. In Qingyun sect, other members of the 6 peaks will have the same idea as you, but the disciples of Qingzhou Peak will not think so. Why should he be promoted to an inner disciple? He was in the miscellaneous hall. In front of Shu he is a handyman in comfortable clothes and does not need to be subject to any restrictions. Furthermore, junior sister, haven't you noticed that he is wandering around Qingzhou Peak, and no one cares about law enforcement or law enforcement? He probably has the most special status in the history of our Qingyun sect. A handyman disciple. As for resources and skills, he now has over 100,000 points. Can he be short of resources? What is puzzling is that this guy has not gone to the library to exchange for any books, and is still practicing basic swordsmanship. There is indeed no need for promotion. He has also proved that there is no shame in the handyman disciples. The handyman disciples. Now many people in our Qingyun sect faint when they hear these 4 words. Chu Yun smiled, because who looks down on the handyman disciples? You'll really get slapped in the face. Returning to the compound of miscellaneous servants, he looked at the disciples who were cultivating miscellaneous servants. Qin Chu said hello to Er Pang, Bai Yu, Lin Zheng and others, and then went back to the cliff to practice. Qin Chu's silence was something Mo Daozi didn't expect. He originally thought that after Qin Chu finished dancing, he would come to him and deduce issues about his life experience with him, but Qin Chu didn't come, and so did Lu Yuan about Qin Chu's affairs. Report frequently. Uncle Master, in more than 3 months, there will be the annual competition and ranking battle between the sect's new disciples, outer disciples and inner disciples. This guy Qin Chu will definitely not be honest. Lu Yuan said. Let him jump. He is really over the top. Don't give people like Su Shanhe and Zhang Ji a chance to take action. Come and solve the problem. Another thing you need to know in advance is that the Qinhuang monuments in Miyan Mountain will be preserved in the sect. He was born within a month after the sect competition. According to the seal, practitioners above the 4th level cannot enter. If the sect wants to organize the elites among the inner sect disciples to go, they must get the Qinhuang order, which is very important to our Qingyun sect. Outer disciples and handyman disciples can go if they want, but if you tell them the risks, they will easily die, Mo Daozi said to Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan nodded. He knew that Mo Daozi could go with the outer disciples and handyman disciples behind him. This was aimed at Qin Chu and gave Qin Chu a chance. However, this opportunity was not easy to come by. The moon will be born once, and many disciples of the Qingyun sect have died, just for the Qinhuang order. King Qing is the eldest disciple of the founder of the Qinyan sect. He has cultivated to the 6th level of the king. Because he was too murderous, he was expelled from the Qinyan sect by the founder of the Qinyan sect. He kept the Qinyan sect in mind, not far away in Mian. A hidden cultivator in the mountain, he has always protected the Qinyan sect. The Qin Wang Ling is a secret treasure that is very important to the Qinyan sect. Back then, the founder of the Qinyan sect expelled the Qin Wang and did not take it back. This resulted in the Qin Wang Ling being left out. Qin Chu's cultivation level improved rapidly. After practicing for another month, his basic swordsmanship reached a state where he could not be promoted. After thinking about it, he felt that he also needed a set of swordsmanship. After all, basic swordsmanship is basic swordsmanship, defense. No problem, but the lethality is still not enough. Qin Chu came to the main peak, and came to the library pavilion under the hostile eyes of the disciples on the main peak. At the 7th level of the 2nd level of condensation realm, the speed of cultivation is still very good, but it is not enough. Mo Daozi looked at Qin Chu and said. Qin Chu knows it's not enough, but he will definitely meet the requirements of the seniors. This time he plans to change his sword skills. Qin Chu said his purpose. Have you mastered the basic swordsmanship? Are you going to leave? You just want to run away. Looking at Qin Chu, Mo Daozi frowned. Chapter 0035 Sword can communicate with gods. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Disciple feels that he is almost done. The basic swordsmanship has not improved for a while. It must have reached a bottleneck. The disciple has not found room for improvement. Qin Chu said. This is why he wanted to exchange for the swordsmanship book. Basic swordsmanship. There is no room for improvement. There is no room for improvement. You are so arrogant. Get him and 2 bottles of Lingyuan pill for me. Mo Daozi pointed at one of the 2 Qinyan sect disciples on duty at the door of the library. This disciple's eyes lit up, he drew his sword and struck at Qin Chu. He was a core disciple of the 4th level Lingyuan realm. He stayed in the library to earn points to exchange for Lingyuan pills. Now the 2 bottles of Lingyuan pills have been put away. In front of him, seeing the disciple on duty stabbing with his sword, Qin Chu unsheathed his sword and slashed diagonally with the sword, breaking the disciple on duty's attack. However, he was also knocked back, mainly because the opponent's sword was very violent with vitality. Taking a deep breath, Qin Chu activated the nameless technique, and the blood in his body began to surge. Then he stretched out his long sword and blocked the second sword of the disciple on duty. This time it was the disciple on duty who retreated, because the power in Qin Chu's body exploded, and the arm holding the sword was strong and powerful. In the past few months, Qin Chu has been doing tasks in Mian Mountain, practicing his sword skills and practicing his actual combat abilities. However, the main way to kill the 4th level monsters is to rely on physical strength. In this case, he used the essence and blood of the snow azure dragon snake as the main ingredient to prepare medicine. After bathing in the soup, his body strength increased to another level. If Qin Chu himself compared it, he should be on par with the monster beasts at the early stage of the 4th level. He would not be knocked back, and he could hold the long sword steadily. The power of Qin Chu's basic swordsmanship came up again. One move after another was perfectly natural. The counterattacks in defense made the disciples on duty in a hurry. However, because of the attack of the basic swordsmanship, with limited power, Qin Chu could not do anything to the disciples on duty. After fighting for a cup of tea, Mo Daozi waved his hand to indicate that the 2 of them could stop. You're walking very steadily. You can indeed run. I have a swordsmanship book here, but it requires a lot of points. Do you want it? Mo Daozi looked at Qin Chu and asked. If the seniors don't cheat Qin Chu, and the swordsmanship is really suitable for Qin Chu, then Qin Chu will change. Qin Chu looked at Mo Daozi with a doubtful look. He knew that this old guy had a lot of knowledge. Noticing Qin Chu's suspicious eyes, Mo Daozi ran away violently. A wave of energy pressed down on Qin Chu, and then reached out and hit Qin Chu's head hard. no one has ever questioned what I said, you kid is going to heaven. The pressure on his body was gone. Qin Chu reached out and touched his head and found that he had been hit several times. However, there was nothing he could do. Mo Daozi was so powerful that he didn't even have the qualifications to resist. Shocking God Sword Ju, you can use it to practice, 200,000 points. Mo Daozi threw a book to Qin Chu, and then set a price that made Qin Chu stunned. Senior, can you not change the disciples? Qin Chu pushed Mo Daozi in front of Mo Daozi with the Jingxian sword technique. It's not like he has never entered the library. The advanced sword techniques in it only have 60,000 to 70,000 points, and the top ones are also it's only 100,000. Old man Mo just took out a sword manual and asked him for 200,000. He didn't want to be taken advantage of. It won't work if you don't change. If you want to survive in Qinyan sect, you must change this Jingxian sword Ju. Mo Daozi glared at Qin Chu. Qin Chu felt helpless and hesitated for a moment. Senior, do you think this is okay? Qin Chu doesn't want the sword technique anymore. I owe you 80,000 points. It's pure filial piety, that he couldn't afford to offend Mo Daozi, and later asked Mo Daozi to deduce his life experience, so he had to admit defeat. Mo Daozi went berserk again, suppressing Qin Chu with his energy, and beat him violently again. Boy, don't be ignorant of your blessings. It can be said that this Jingxian sword technique is the most suitable for you among all the sword techniques of Qinyan sect. Besides, except for the person in front of you, no one else has practiced it and no one understands it at all. Do you think it's precious or not? Ling Yunzi spoke, but he felt that it was impossible not to speak. Qin Chu always thought that he was at a disadvantage, so he didn't believe Mo Daozi. After listening to Ling Yunzi's words, Qin Chu collected the classics and was about to leave, but was caught by Mo Daozi. You want to run away without giving me points? That with no other choice, Qin Chu handed over the scorecard, and after begging for a few words, Mo Daozi transferred 100,000 yuan away, leaving him with some fractions that could be exchanged for some yuan Ningdan. Qin Chu left with the Jingshenzhian Ju. Although he got the classics, he felt a little depressed because he had lost 100,000 points and still owed another 100,000. Gotta pay off the debt. After Qin Chu left, the law enforcement disciple looked at Mo Daozi. Your Highness, isn't your Jingxian sword technique a secret that is not passed down in the sect? It's not that it's not passed on, it's that there are no suitable people. If you want to practice the Jingxian sword art, one of the conditions is to practice the basic sword skills to the great perfection, so that you can exert the power of the Jingxian sword art. There is another more important factor. No one in our sect can achieve it. I won't be stingy enough to let the sword skills rot in my own hands. Mo Daozi said, the disciples who can serve in the library are all core disciples who have absolutely no problem with their loyalty. So he talked about the main reason why he passed on Qin Chu's Jingshenzhian Ju. Ha! I have practiced basic swordsmanship to great perfection and still want to find room for improvement. I am really stunned. Ling Yunzi smiled. Mo Daozi had never been so frustrated. The world-famous Jingxian sword art was actually defeated by Qin. Although he initially despised it, he also knew what another condition for practicing the Jingxian sword art was, which was that he must have the sword spirit realm in his body, and his mind and spirit should be integrated with the long sword. Not long after Qin Chu left, a woman came to the library pavilion. Her skirt was fluttering in the wind, and she had a different kind of temperament. Uncle and junior sister, are you here in exchange for the classics? Give me the points card. A disciple on duty said. Thank you, senior brother, your majesty Mo. This disciple is here in exchange for the Jingshenzhian Ju. Xianxia looked at Mo Daozi. How do you know this? Mo Daozi frowned, because not many people knew about the Jingshenzhian Ju. Xianxia bowed to Mo Daozi. Disciple has read an introduction to the sect's classics, and also asked an elder who recommended it. Disciple also knows that Jingxian sword Ju is the sharpest sword in Qinyan sect's attack. Recommended. He doesn't know the truth at all. You must have the foundation of basic swordsmanship to practice the Jingxian sword art. Mo Daozi said. The old man said this, so this disciple has been practicing hard for 3 months on the basic family skills, and has upgraded the basic swordsmanship to the master level. I also asked Supreme Master Mo to help me. This disciple is only dedicated to the way of swordsmanship in this life. Shang Shuyu said to Mo Daozi Mo Daozi looked at Shang Shuyu and said, I have been working hard for the rise of Qinyan sect all my life. I will never be stingy in supporting my disciples. You are a swordsman genius, but you are not suitable for my swordsmanship. What you should look for is him. After speaking, Mo Daozi pointed at Ling Yunzi, holding the Jingxian sword art worth 200,000 points. Qin Chu returned to the cliff wooden house next to the handyman compound, and then took it out to study. He wanted to see how the Jingxian sword art was worth 200,000 points. It can kill people, demons, the sword can communicate with gods, and it can shock ghosts and gods. The general outline of the Jingxian sword art. Chapter 0036 Even more powerful than a tiger. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Qin Chu was stunned for a moment, looking at the general introduction of this sword technique. It was quite powerful. Is it possible to write the creative exercises blindly? Won't. Anyone who takes their own skills extremely seriously and dares to write like this means they are unique. Opening the cover of the classic, Qin Chu saw the requirements for practicing Jingxian sword technique. The first requirement was that the level of basic swordsmanship should be above the Grandmaster level. In this way, every move in the basic swordsmanship would be changed. It is the sword skill. The second one is to have the realm of sword spirit, so that the mind and the sword become one, and the long sword can be used like an arm. After flipping through the book, Qin Chu saw 3 special sword skills at the back of the book: Unbreakable Sword, Fish Dragon Dance, and Shocking Transformation. The Unbreakable Sword is a defensive sword move, the Fish and Dragon Dance is a group attack sword skill, and the Shocking Transformation is a simple attack and killing method. Taking a deep breath, Qin Chu began to study the Jingxian sword technique. He felt that Mo Daozi's sect had many tricks, but it was unlikely that he would trick a handyman disciple like him. Qin Chu became obsessed with practicing the Jingxian sword art, because with the assistance of the Jingxian sword art, the power of his basic swordsmanship increased a lot. The most significant effect of the Jingxian sword technique is the speed increase, which greatly increases the speed of Qin Chu's basic swordsmanship. Although it is still a basic swordsmanship, the speed is different after it is used. It can also be said that with the foundation of basic swordsmanship, Jingxian, the power of the divine sword art is very great. Qin Chu practices vitality at night and swordsmanship during the day. He does tasks at a normal pace and has no impact on himself. The difference is that when he practices swordsmanship, he does not practice it on his own, but becomes an actual combat. Ling Yunzi came back half a month after leaving the library. Are you satisfied? Mo Daozi looked at Ling Yunzi. I am very satisfied. Although Qin Chu's qualifications are incredible, this Shang Shuyu is not bad either. She has understood the true meaning of swordsmanship, and her achievements in swordsmanship will not be low in the future. It is a pity that she plans to attack the 4th level and cannot enter the Qinhuang Monument. Ling Yunzi said, in the past half-month, he taught Shang Shuyu his kendo experience and kendo secrets. He was very satisfied with Shang Shuyu. That girl's talent is very good, but she is not suitable for my brother's swordsmanship. Mo Daozi said. Then the boy didn't come to see his senior brother? Ling Yunzi asked with a smile. Mo Daozi shook his head. How could it be? He is not a fool. After practicing the Jingxian sword art, he knew he had made a profit. In fact, Qin Chu was very satisfied with the Jingxian sword art. He didn't know whether he had made a profit or not, but he felt that it was not a loss. When he was fighting monsters, he felt the power of the Jingxian sword art. He didn't use the 3 unique moves, but just went through it. The changed basic swordsmanship allowed him to kill everyone outside Miyun Mountain. He had encountered 3rd-level group monsters twice, and it was much easier than before. He could kill easily, and even the monsters could not touch him. His tyranny and sharp swordsmanship make him even more powerful. After completing the task, Qin Chu got a lot of points, but all his points were earned for Mo Daozi. He owed Mo Daozi 100,000 points, but he was not in a hurry to pay it back. Mo Daozi couldn't chase him for it, right? The disciples of the Handyman Hall have also become regular visitors to the Hall of Merit. Bai Yu, Er Pang, Lin Zheng and other new outer disciples who join the Handyman Hall often take the Handyman disciples out to do tasks, although sometimes they are very embarrassed. But the road has been opened, and the Handyman disciples all know that this is a road that requires sacrifice but can be rewarded. Qingzhou Peak's Hall of Merit has also made some adjustments. Inner disciples cannot do tasks below the second level. Only outer disciples and handyman disciples can do tasks below the second level, chance. Qingzhou Peak gives opportunities to the handyman disciples. It can also be said that Qingzhou Peak gives opportunities to those who are willing to make progress. The atmosphere on the main peak was very depressing, because the main peak's face was severely damaged by Qin Chu's attack. The bully did not understand, but was beaten to pieces. This made the people on the main peak very unhappy when they saw the people from the other 6 peaks. Comfortable, not only the disciples of the main peak, but also other law enforcement and guardians. There are many people who want to kill Qin Chu, but they have no chance now. Qian Qing and Lu Nan sat together and communicated. They must kill Qin Chu. There is no chance now, but it doesn't matter, we can wait. Qianqing's face was full of murderous intent. He didn't like Yanagisawa, and he didn't care about Yanagisawa. He had many women, but Yanagisawa's murder made him lose face. To survive, he must stand firm in the Qinyan sect. With the support of the Qinyan sect, he will be able to ascend to the throne in the Qian dynasty. In addition, if Yanagisawa dies, Qianlu City's support attitude towards him will also change. I have arranged for people to investigate him. I just know that he often goes out to do tasks. The details are unclear. It is really difficult to find out information about him in Qingzhou Peak. Lu Nan said. In Qingzhou Peak now, not everyone can find out about Qin Chu's affairs. The main thing is that Qin Chu doesn't have contact with anyone. If anyone inquires about it, it will be a problem. I got the news that the Qinhuang ancient ruins are going to be unveiled. Qingzhou Peak will definitely send people to participate. Because there is a seal, only disciples below the 4th level can enter. There will definitely be this bastard on top. We will kill him then. There is a chance, there is a pill here, which will dissipate part of the vitality. Control your cultivation at the peak of the 3rd level, and then go in and kill him. Qian Qing took out a pill bottle and handed the bottle to Lu. South, Lu Nan's face turned ugly. It was because the medicine was poisonous. He couldn't take too much of the elixir to assist in cultivation. What's more, he was one of the heirs of Qianlu City. If his cultivation was destroyed, then what to inherit? It's just a temporary loss of some vitality. Will I treat you badly as a prince? Seeing Lu Nan's hesitation, Qianqing was unhappy. He didn't like others to question his decision. Okay. Taking a deep breath, Lu Nan took the elixir. This prince will also find 2 4th-level disciples, and let some of their cultivation go in with you. You will lead the disciples from the main peak. It will not be difficult to kill that bastard and the disciples from Qingzhou Peak. After killing them, you will definitely to get the King Qing's order, Qian Qing said to Lu Nan. What he didn't tell Lu Nan was that the San Yuan Dan was very harmful to practitioners. It would damage the Dantian, which is equivalent to damaging the foundation. As time passed, Qingyun sect began to prepare for the annual disciples competition meeting, and some people also began to prepare to enter the Qinhuang secret realm. Lu Yuan told the senior officials of Qingyun sect about this news, and some senior officials naturally gave advice to their disciples. Lu Ocean called Qin Chu to the main hall of Qingzhou Peak. You are at the 8th level of the Ning Yuan realm. He looks very good. When it comes to the competition, you must get a good ranking. The disciple is a handyman disciple and is not qualified to participate. Furthermore, the disciple does not want to participate. Qin Chu shook his head. His cultivation level had just entered the 8th level of the condensing yuan realm and he had stabilized his cultivation level. As for the competition between the sect disciples, he didn't feel much about the conference. The competition was a competition between outer disciples and inner disciples. Those people were not his opponents at all. No, you must win the first place among the outer disciples and the first among the inner disciples. Luozhen slapped the table. He also planned to make Qin Chu famous. Chapter 0037 Everyone depends on their ability. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Lord Peak Master, this is not appropriate. This disciple is just a handyman. How can he fight the outer disciples and then fight the inner disciples? This will break the rules. Qin Chu said, mainly because he was not very interested. It's not good for me to promote you to an inner disciple. If you become an inner disciple, you won't be able to fight against the outer disciples. Luozhen frowned. He knew that Qin Chu could fight, but he didn't know how to fight. Suitable, Qin Chu stood below and said nothing. He didn't know what Luozhen was going to do. Don't be reluctant, kid. I also have good news to tell you. After the sect competition is over, in about a month, the Qingyuan ancient ruins will be born. That represents some opportunities. Do you want to go? If you want to fight for Qingzhou Peak, I will let you go. Luozhen looked at Qin Chu and said. As a member of Qingzhou Peak, I have to fight for Qingzhou Peak. It is not a problem if my status is inappropriate. After the sect competition, the outer disciples are ranked. If the top one is not a disciple of Qingzhou Peak, then Qin Chu will choose the inner sect disciple as the first, and he's not a disciple of Qingzhou Peak, so let's pick him. When he heard that it was good, Qin Chu became more energetic. Luozhen looked at Qin Chu. Qin Chu's attitude changed too quickly, which made him understand what was going on. It was a matter of benefits. There were benefits. No problem was a problem in front of Qin Chu. He wanted the horse to run away. You have to let the horse eat grass. Okay, it's settled. Luozhen nodded to Qin Chu. If you have any information about King Qing's ancient ruins, please show it to your disciples if it's convenient. Qin Chu said. Luozhen nodded, I will send someone to deliver it to you later. By the way, last time you said you needed sword skills. Now show me your basic sword skills. Let me see how it goes. After hesitating for a moment, Qin Chu shook his head at Luozhen and said, Disciple, I don't need it for the time being. If you are asked to show it, then show it. If possible, I can give you sword skills in exchange. Luozhen felt that if Qin Chu's basic sword skills were up to par, he could practice sword skills. Master Peak Master, my disciples are now owed 100,000 points, how can they dare to ask for your sword skills? Qin Chu said with a wry smile, but also changed his sword skills. It's not appropriate to continue carrying debt. Who dares to lie to you? I will kill him. Luozhen's expression changed when he heard Qin Chu said that he owed 100,000 points. He instinctively felt that Qin Chu had been cheated by others, and he would not tolerate this. I didn't lie to the disciple. It was the disciple who exchanged a book of sword art worth 200,000 points in the library. Qin Chu told Luozhen about the Jingxin sword art. Luozhen's eyes were full of surprise. As the Peak Master, he naturally knew some things. Mo Daozi's Jingxin sword art was priced at 200,000 points. This was because of the harsh training conditions. If the conditions were not harsh, it would require the points will be even higher. Let's go, hurry up, you have practiced Jingxin sword art, what sword skills do you want? Luozhen drove him away. He also admired Qin Chu, because being able to owe points to Mo Daozi is also a skill. Don't even think about it. After Qin Chu left, Luozhen came to the Kangshuj Pavilion. He arrived at an attic not far away from the Kangshuj Pavilion, which was Mo Daozi's residence. In the past, Mo Daozi stayed at the door of the library and waited for people. By the time Qin Chu came, he no longer needed to stay at the door of the library. Uncle Master, are you also optimistic about Qin Chu? Luozhen bowed to Mo Daozi. It seems that you know that Qinzhou Peak has found a treasure. That kid has a bullshit temper. Whoever treats him well will be treated well. Qinzhou Peak must not chill his heart. Mo Daozi said to Luozhen. Uncle, don't worry, Luozhen will remember it. Luozhen nodded. He is at Qinzhou Peak, and I am the most at ease. In this era of materialistic desires, there are not many people in the Qingyun sect who can keep their true intentions, and you, Luozhen, are one of them. As for Qin Chu, continue to let him go, and be careful not to let him get caught. Just calculated, Mo Daozi said to Luozhen. Luozhen bowed and backed away. He knew how high-minded Mo Daozi was, and being able to think highly of Qin Chu also proved that he was right to think highly of Qin Chu. After leaving Qinzhou Peak, Qin Chu returned to the handyman compound. As soon as he entered the handyman compound, Qin Chu was pulled by Baiyu to his room. Now that room was not occupied by one person. Lin Zheng and several others who followed him lived in this room. There were wine and food on the table in the room, and Lin Zheng and Air Pang were all there. I just went to the cliff to look for you, but you weren't here, so we all have to eat. Lin Zheng said. I just went out to do some errands. You guys are great. Qin Chu said after sitting down. We sent some monster meat to the kitchen, and the kitchen gave us extra meals. Lin Zheng said with a smile. He was very happy to come to the handyman hall because he lived a fulfilling and happy life. We will go to the sect competition soon. After the sect competition, it is time for the disciples to be promoted. Should you go back to the outer sect or go back? The handyman hall is not a place for you to stay for a long time. Qin Chu said to Lin Zheng said. After listening to Qin Chu's words, Lin Zheng shook his head. If I take the assessment this year, I will still become an outer disciple. This means nothing to me. I plan to stay in the miscellaneous hall for another year. If I want to take the assessment, I will also be an inner disciple. Assessment. After Lin Zheng's words came out, the several outer disciples who came to the miscellaneous hall with him nodded. It was indeed not important to them to become outer disciples again. 2. What about you? Baiyu looked at Qin Chu. He was now at the third level of True Yuan realm and qualified to become an inner disciple, but he wanted to see what Qin Chu meant. I am the same wherever I am. My skills and resources can be exchanged for points. I am a handyman disciple and no one dares to look down on me. Just continue. Qin Chu said. The same goes for me. What's wrong with just being a servant disciple? Anyone who looks down on us will be beaten directly. Baiyu made a decision. He will not leave until Qin Chu leaves the servant hall. After drinking a little wine and communicating with everyone, Qin Chu returned to the cliff and continued to meditate. The next morning, Yan Yi came to the handyman compound and came to the edge of the cliff. Qin Chu, this is what Master asked me to bring to you. If you don't understand anything, you can ask me. Yan Yi handed Qin Chu a note. Thank you. Qin Chu hugged Yan Yi. You can call me senior brother Yan. I'm sorry about Chu Yun, but she is really not a mean person, so don't take it to heart. Yan Yi said, in the Qingyun sect, disciples of the same generation are called senior brothers, but this does not include the handyman disciples, so Qin Chu never calls anyone senior brother. Yan Yi pursues Chu Yun, and he does not want Qin Chu to be dissatisfied with Chu Yun. After all, Qin Chu was highly regarded by everyone at Qinzhou Peak, and he himself also admired Qin Chu. I really didn't mind. She was able to admit her mistakes and admit defeat outright that day, which shows that she is a magnanimous person. Qin Chu said with a smile. You are going to the Qinhuang ancient ruins this time. I have something to remind you. Once you enter the Qinhuang ancient ruins, the sect cannot interfere. Qianqing and Lunan will not let you go. Yanni said, holding the note in hand. Qin Chu was silent for a moment. I have thought about some things. Anyone who wants to mess with me will let them die. The sects in the Qinhuang ancient ruins cannot interfere, so everyone can do what they want. Chapter 0038 Invincible. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. After looking at Qin Chu, Yanni nodded. He knew that if he backed down when he heard that Qian Qing and Lu Nan were looking for trouble, then he was not Qin Chu. As far as I know, because of the seal problem around the Qinhuang monument, cultivators above the 4th level cannot enter. In other words, those who enter to compete for opportunities are all below the 4th level. They are plotting against you. It will not exceed this level. As for the map, there is one at the back of the handbook, which should be more detailed than the other disciples. Yanni told Qin Chu the specific situation. I understand, go back and tell the Peak Master that Qin Chu is alive, then he won't be disappointed. Qin Chu said to Yanni. Yanni left. Qin Chu knew in his heart that his purpose of coming to Qin Chu was achieved. He still had to go to Qianluo Peak to see Chu Yun. He used his 3rd level peak cultivation to fail to capture Qin Chu, and to Chu Yun. Cloud is a big hit. Holding the handbook, Qin Chu studied it carefully, and slowly gained some understanding of the Qinhuang ancient ruins. Behind the handbook was a map, which was drawn by the disciples of Qinzhou Peak who entered the Qinhuang ancient ruins. The other 6 foam also has such a map. Qin Chu also learned a little bit about the crisis in the Qinhuang ancient ruins. Some of the formations and mechanisms in the ancient ruins, as well as the monster beasts. It was difficult to judge what level the monster beasts were. The Qinhuang ancient ruins have existed for too long. There is a seal outside, but monsters below the 4th level can enter. The monsters that enter may be very weak at the time, but it is normal for them to grow up over the long years. After thinking for a while, Qin Chu put the notebook and map into the storage ring. He knew that risks and opportunities are directly proportional, and only by taking risks can you gain. Maybe some people will retreat from participating in such an experience because of the risk, but Qin Chu wants to participate. He has some considerations in his heart. If he wants to find his life experience, he must have strength. Mo Daozi is right, there is holy blood, and holy blood involves big forces. With his current strength, if he jumps in, he may not even stir up waves. After adjusting his thinking, Qin Chu took the Ning Yuan pill and started practicing. The atmosphere in the Qinyan sect is particularly depressing. The annual sect disciple competition is about to begin, and news of the birth of the Qinhuang secret realm has also spread. These 2 things have a great impact on the disciples of the Qinyan sect. The Qingzhou Peak Handyman Hall was not affected. Bai Yu, Lin Zheng, Air Pang and others still took the handy disciples to complete tasks. Everyone had a strong desire to become stronger, not for anything else but to gain respect. This is a world where the jungle prevails. If you want to be respected, you must have strength. Although Qin Chu is currently guarding the Handyman Hall, how long can Qin Chu stay in the Handyman Hall? Many handyman disciples have weighed in their minds. Qin Chu is too good and the sect will definitely focus on training him. It is only a matter of time before he leaves the Handyman Hall. At the beginning and end of every year, Qin Chu would leave the cliff and go to the Hall of Merit to receive tasks. If there were few tasks, he would also go to the Hall of Merit on the main peak to receive tasks. As for the hostile looks from the people on the main peak, he ignored it. The sect had no rules and he couldn't take on the mission from the main peak. So what couldn't he take on? In the past, the people on the main peak thought that Qin Chu was a grasshopper after the autumn, and could not jump around for long, but now they don't think so. Before, Qin Chu was extremely domineering when he first entered the condensing yuan realm. Now Qin Chu has cultivated to the 8th level of the condensing yuan realm. Combat strength is naturally rising. Qian Qing, Lu Nan and others also knew about Qin Chu's mission, but did not touch Qin Chu because the chance was slim. They tried to follow him once, but every time Qin Chu left the main peak, he always passed through Qingzhou Peak. If we go to Miyan Mountain, it would be unrealistic to follow Qin Chu. Once we reach Qingzhou Peak, it will be easy to be exposed. The sect conference arrived as scheduled. Both the inner and outer disciples of Qifeng challenged themselves and conducted internal rankings. The top 10 outer sect disciples and 10 inner sect disciples ranked among the top leaders in their respective regions. He led them to the square in front of the main hall of Qingyun sect, and started the ranking of the entire Qingyun sect's outer disciples and inner disciples. The core disciples also have rankings, but they are not in front of others. The main reason is that they do not want to hurt the face of the core disciples. They will have an arena battle in the core disciple area and then announce the rankings. In other words, the Qingyun sect members only know the rankings and do not know the details of the battle. I don't know who defeated whom, except for Qingzhou Peak. The disciples of the other 6 peaks felt a lot more at ease when they saw that Qin Chu was still wearing a coarse robe, because at this time Qin Chu was still a handyman disciple and was not qualified to participate in the ranking battle between the outer disciples and the inner disciples. Qin Chu tightened the long sword on his back and straightened up. What happened to the handyman disciple? There is no shame in being a handyman disciple. Before, Qin Chu had a long sword hanging on his waist. After practicing the Jingxian sword art, he carried the long sword on his back. Take a closer look and see how they fight. Luo Zhen said to Qin Chu, who was standing next to Elder Song. Qin Chu nodded. He was the one who fought in the past, but today he wanted to see other people's battles and see other strengths. The sect disciple ranking battle is a 2-to-1 duel after drawing lots, and the final 10 people left behind will be ranked among the top 10 of the outer disciples. The results came out in less than half a day. The first and second places were from the main peak and the third place was from Qianluo Peak. Only one outer disciple from Qingzhou Peak entered the top 10 and won 6th place. After Su Shanhe, who presided over the conference, announced the rankings, Qin Chu walked out of the Qingzhou Peak camp. Qin Chu, you are a handyman disciple. You are not qualified to participate in today's conference. Su Shanhe started to fight from his seat. I, Qin Chu, did not come here to participate in the sect disciple competition meeting today. I came out just to ask the first and second placers, if you dare to have a battle, so that everyone can see if your rankings are worthy of the ranking. Qin Chu glanced at the outer disciples who had won first and second place on the main peak and said, "Stop messing around and get down." Su Shanhe was angry. What was Qin Chu doing? The first and second names on the list are both disciples of the main peak. Qin Chu smiled and said, "Don't you dare. The first and second ranked disciples don't dare to accept the challenge of my handyman disciple. Isn't that too rubbish? Others will say that the first and second ranked outer disciples are not even the handyman disciples. Even worse. By the way, the 2 of them glared at me in the Hall of Merit. Why don't you tell me? Everyone can see clearly that Qin Chu is here to destroy the situation. The outer disciples of the main peak will be embarrassed if they don't fight. If they fight, they will definitely lose. What's going on? Where's the courage? We Qingyun sect disciples can lose or be defeated, but we can't even lack the courage to draw the sword. Lu Yuan, who had been watching the battle, stood up. He was a little angry that the outer disciples were hopeless. Now that Qin Chu has called for formation, the outer disciples of the main peak dare not reply. In desperation, the 2 disciples from the main peak admitted defeat. They really did not have the courage to fight Qin Chu. It's over. Although Qin Chu did not participate in the battle of the outer disciples, he has now become the uncrowned king, unrivaled among the outer disciples. Chapter 0039, A Worthy Death. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. The top 2 on the main peak won the sect competition, but lost face. After looking at the 2 of them, Qin Chu returned to the area of Qingzhou Peak. The second fat man made a tree stump for Qin Chu to sit on. You must know that many law enforcement officers stood and watched. You're welcome. Qin Chu sat down. Why can't he sit down? No one forces you to stand and watch. The disciples on the main peak all glared at Qin Chu, wishing they could kill Qin Chu now. Don't glare at me. If you don't like me, then come and fight. You bullied me back then, and you were so cruel that I was imprisoned in the dungeon, so I won't go too far now. After sitting down, Qin Chu he said something that made Su Shanhe angry. Taking a deep breath to calm down the anger in his heart, Su Shanhe announced the start of the ranking battle for the inner disciples. Luozhen looked back at Qin Chu and nodded with satisfaction. He admired Qin Chu's courage. No matter who you are, I can say whatever I need to say and do whatever I need to do. What happened to the deputy sect master? You can't cover up the sky with one hand. Boss, you're so domineering. Pang took the teapot from a handyman disciple and poured a glass of water for Qin Chu. While drinking water, Qin Chu watched the competition between the inner disciples of the Qingyun sect. Many people looked at this scene and felt it was very unreasonable. Except for Su Shanhe in the main area, there were also several elders of Qingyun sect, and the peak masters of each peak had tables with tea on them. The elders of each peak did not tea and water to drink, but as for Qin Chu, there is a tree pillar to sit on, tea to drink, treatment and noodles, there is nothing to say. None of the law enforcement officers, guardians and elders of Qingzhou Peak said anything. They thought this was normal. So what could other peaks say? The battle continued. This time, the inner disciples of Qingzhou Peak performed very well. 2 disciples entered the top 10. However, more disciples from the main peak entered the top 10. 3 entered. There was one peak where no inner disciple entered. Top 10, the top 10 are announced, and then comes the ranking battle. After the ranking battle, an inner disciple from Qingzhou Peak ranked 3rd, a disciple from the main peak ranked 2nd, and a woman from Qianluo Peak ranked 1st. Shang Shuyu, an inner disciple of my main peak, is practicing in seclusion. It is a pity that he cannot participate in this sect competition. Now I am announcing the ranking. Su Shanhe said about Shang Shuyu, and after saving some face for the main peak, he announced the ranking of the inner disciples. After the rankings were announced, Su Shanhe looked at Qin Chu with a provocative look in his eyes, which meant you should go. This time, the female disciple who took the top spot in Qianluo Peak is very strong. There are no flaws in Tianluo sword technique. It cannot be said that there are no flaws, but at the 3rd level, it is very difficult to break. The attacks are also continuous. It is impossible to fight against her. None of the inner disciples could stop his attack. Are you trying to provoke me? That's okay. Qin Chu put down the teacup, straightened his clothes and came to the venue. Second on the list, your name is Wu Qing, right? You are very powerful in combat. I want to give it a try to see if you deserve to be ranked 2nd on the list. I am a handyman disciple, you won't refuse, right? If you refuse, it will be very shameless and it means you are not as good as a handyman. Qin Chu said. You bastard, you go to hell. The inner sect disciple named Wu Qing, who ranked 2nd on the main peak, rushed towards Qin Chu in a flash, and struck directly at Qin Chu's throat with his long sword. With a clear sound, Qin Chu's long sword was unsheathed, and he pointed directly at the tip of Wu Qing's long sword, breaking Wu Qing's attack. You want to kill me? I just want to kill you. You are a bastard who is challenging the main peak. Who are you? If you insult the majesty of our Prince Qing, you will die too. Wu Qing's second sword came out again, to kill. Wu Qing's face was full of murderous intent, and he was swinging his sword very fiercely. He didn't hold anything back, just to kill Qin Chu. At this time, Qin Chu understood that Wu Qing was from Qianqing, otherwise he would not have called Prince Qing. When Qianqing was mentioned, Wu Qing also glanced at the direction of Qianqing. The long sword trembled. Qin Chu performed the Jingshenjian Ju, diagonally stabbing Wu Qing's long sword away, and then slashed horizontally. Wu Qing's expression changed, and he quickly blocked with his sword, but Qin Chu's sword move was too fast. When Qin Chu's horizontal slash was close to Wu Qing's chest, Wu Qing's long sword could barely block Qin Chu's long sword. The sword also drew a stream of blood. When the weapons were handed over, Wu Qing's body was shaken back, mainly because Qin Chu's body was strong and the power was too strong, and he couldn't withstand it. After Wu Qing was pushed back, Qin Chu's feet shook, his body rose into the air, and then he slashed Wu Qing on the head with his sword. Wu Qing, who took a few steps back and stabilized his position, raised his long sword horizontally into the air. When the long sword was about to cut down on Wu Cheng's long sword, Qin Chu's wrist flicked, and the long sword suddenly changed. The downward cut turned into an oblique cut, and it slashed towards Wu Cheng's right arm. Wu Cheng's face was full of fear, because Qin Chu changed his moves too quickly and he couldn't stop him at all. Aha! The sword light flashed, and Wu Cheng's wrist was cut off. Qin Chu's long sword reverberated again, directly cutting off Wu Cheng's throat. Originally it was just a sparring match, but you want to kill me. I can't help it. The dignity of the Qin prince cannot be blasphemed, and I still want to step on it. Qin Chu flicked his wrist, sheathed his long sword, and then killed Wu Cheng without anyone else. Storage bracelets and weapons are collected. Qin Chu, do you want to die? You damn handyman, you dare to kill the inner disciples, come and take it. Xianxia was angry. Qin Chu had no scruples in killing the inner disciples at the main peak. Wait a minute. The handyman disciple is also a disciple of the Qinyan sect. He wants to kill me, so I can't kill him. Is this a rule of the Qinyan sect or a rule of your main peak? I saw several law enforcement officers heading toward me. Coming up, Qin Chu shouted. Luozhen also stood up. Yes, I also want to know whether this is the rule of Qinyan sect or the rule of the main peak. The disciples of the main peak can shout to the disciples of Qinzhou peak, but the disciples of Qinzhou peak have to stretch their necks. Waiting to be killed. Peak Master Luo, what do you mean now? Are you trying to make things difficult for me? Xianxia was angry because Luozhen really didn't want to give him face. Ignoring the lives of my Qinzhou peak disciples, and then letting you get by. That's not okay. Luozhen had no intention of backing down. Qin Chu stood up to challenge him. How could he give in? Alright, disciple of the main peak, you are the first to kill your fellow disciples, and you deserve to die. Let's put this matter aside. Lu Yuan stood up and directly clarified the matter. Xianxia turned and looked at Lu Yuan. Elder Lu also thinks that Qin Chu's murder can be in vain. Then I would like to ask, when Wu Cheng wanted to kill someone, why didn't Deputy Sect Leader Su stop him? Lu Yuan looked at Xianxia and asked. I didn't have time. Xianxia's face turned red with anger. Except for Luozhen, Lu Yuan also didn't give him face. The Qinyan sect's law enforcement no longer approached Qin Chu. Lu Yuan was the law enforcement elder of the Qinyan sect and was in charge of these matters. Lu Yuan said that Wu Cheng died innocently, so they couldn't take anyone. How about we spar with this beauty? No one was targeting him anymore. Qin Chu looked at the female disciple of Qianluo Peak. You little bastard. After hearing Qin Chu's words, the peak master of Qianluo Peak, Lei Yin, directly cursed. Chapter 00402 Inhumane. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Lei Yin started to curse without being polite. Countless sect disciples were watching, but she just cursed. This was her Lei Yin style. Master Lei Feng, it's a good thing for us all to discuss this and make progress together, right? Qin Chu looked at Lei Yin and said with a smile. Lei Yin scolded him, but he didn't have any hostile attitude towards him. The disciple who challenged Qianluo Peak was just dissatisfied. After all, he had made everything difficult for the main peak, and now his target was turned to Qianluo Peak. Let's discuss it. It's really a good thing to make progress together. Lu Yuan sat down after saying that. He supported the real discussion. Lei Yin looked at Qin Chu and said, there is no problem in the discussion. If you do something dirty, I will take care of you in the future. Qianluo Peak, Lu Shui. The female disciple of Qianluo Peak standing on the stage held her sword in both hands and greeted Qin Chu. Qin Chu, Qinzhou Peak's handyman disciple, came here to ask for advice. Please show mercy to the beautiful lady. Qin Chu hugged Lu Shui's fists. At this time, the Qinyan sect's 7 peaks people who were watching felt very strange. Qin Chu, this beast who grabbed the disciples of the main peak and was ruthless, also had a gentle side. Not to mention that Qin Chu was gentle and had the demeanor of a noble man. Although he was dressed in coarse linen clothes, his whole person exuded a spirit, a refreshing and clean spirit from the inside out, which could not be concealed by coarse linen clothes. Junior brother is too polite, then sister is not so polite. Lu Shui drew her sword and started to attack. Qin Chu pulled out the long sword from his back and started to defend. The sword light circulated, and Lu Shui's long sword continued to attack Qin Chu with a 3-inch sword light. Qin Chu's long sword did not release vitality, but it was blessed with strength and vitality. The basic sword moves he made at random blocked all Lu Shui's attacks. The contrast is huge. Lu Shui's sword attacks are fierce and sharp. Qin Chu's basic sword moves are unremarkable, but every time he makes a move, he defends himself tightly and blocks Lu Shui's attacks. Qin Chu's defense cannot be broken at all. This is Lu Shui's feeling. It should be said that it is not just Lu Shui's feeling, but also the feeling of all onlookers. If Lu Shui's attacks were continuous and impacting like a waterfall, then Qin Chu was the unpretentious rock under the waterfall. Lu Shui, come down. You can't break through this little bastard's defense. Lei Yin shouted to Lu Shui. Lu Shui took a few steps back. Junior brother's defense is strong, but sister, I am also good at defense. Do you want to try? If you can break through, you will win this game. If you can't break through, then I, the inner disciple, will be ranked first. There's still no moisture. No need. Just have a discussion. Qin Chu said, modesty. Qin Chu was humble, which made the troops at Qinzhou Peak and the main peak very strange, because in the past, every time Qin Chu fought, he fought to the end, and there was no time to stop. In fact, this is everyone's misunderstanding about Qin Chu. He is not an enemy, and he is not sincerely targeting him. Qin Chu is not targeting him at all. You don't look like you anymore. I know you are a fighting maniac. Lu Shui looked at Qin Chu and said. Misunderstanding, it's all misunderstanding. Those guys want to kill me, so I have no choice but to fight back. Qin Chu explained. Come on. I'm not afraid of failure. Lu Shui said after swinging the long sword in her hand. Okay. If you don't take it seriously at this time, it will be disrespectful to you. Qin Chu took back the long sword and unsheathed it again, and began to attack. With the long sword in hand, Qin Chu's aura changed and became sharp. Lu Shui swung his long sword, displayed the Tianluo sword technique, and started to defend. The Tianluo sword technique was the unique skill of the first peak master of Qianluo Peak, and its characteristic was that the sword power was continuous. Using the Jingshan sword art, Qin Chu's swordsmanship was extremely fast, but Lu Shui's Qianluo swordsmanship was indeed powerful in defense. People were repelled, but the defense was still relatively stable. With his mind shaken, Qin Chu entered the sword spirit realm. After entering the sword spirit realm, Qin Chu's aura changed again. The whole thing seemed to be a sword, and it seemed as if the long sword was part of the body and had spirituality. Ding. With a crisp sound, Qin Chu's long sword touched the front third of Lu Shui's long sword, which was also the position least affected by the force, and swung Lu Shui's long sword away. After swinging Lu Shui's long sword away, Qin Chu controlled the long sword to flip, and the sword spine struck Lu Shui's arm, blocking Lu Shui's long sword's counterattack. Then the long sword was pressed against Lu Shui's neck, and then Qin Chu retreated. Lu Shui was stunned for a moment, then sheathed her sword. The strongest handyman, he deserves his reputation. You have no water at the top of the inner sect. Qin Chu clasped his fists at Lu Shui, then retreated to the Qinzhou Peak camp and arrived in front of his own wooden pier. Before sitting down, Qin Chu cupped his hands in front of Lei Yin. After all, Lei Yin valued him very much, and this respect was worthy of his respect. Lu Shui got off the ring. She lost, but it was not a shameful defeat. After all, Qin Chu had not been defeated yet. Compared to the main peak, she looked much better. Su Shanhe, with a gloomy face, announced the end of the competition and then distributed the rewards. There are rewards for the top 10 disciples in the outer sect and the top 10 in the inner sect of the sect. This also encourages the disciples to grow, but there are no ones who died in battle, such as Wucheng, Luozhen clasped his fists at the other 5 peaks masters, without even looking at Su Shanhe, and left the main hall square with the Qingzhou peak masters. In this competition among the sect disciples, Qingzhou peak became the biggest winner. It was for no other reason than that there was a handyman who could defeat the number 1 in the outer sect and the number 1 in the inner sect. He could fight if he refused. He could not only fight but also kill. Who dares to underestimate a try? Arriving at the entrance of Qingzhou Peak, Luozhen looked at Qin Chu and said, "Go back and practice hard to prepare for a month later." Is this the end? Qin Chu looked at Luozhen. He was trying to save face for Qingzhou Peak. Do you have anything else? Luozhen looked at Qin Chu. Everyone who goes to war is rewarded. Is this disciple busy in vain? Qin Chu looked at Luozhen, and he realized that Luozhen had been pretending to be confused even if he didn't tell him. Can the outer disciples do it? They have a fixed amount of Yuan Ning Dan every month. Can the inner disciples do it? They have a fixed amount of true Yuan pills every month, but they have to go on duty regularly, have mandatory tasks, and the pay is pretty good. If you can, I can promote you now, Luozhen asked, looking at Qin Chu. Mandatory task. Then he wouldn't be as comfortable as he is now. Qin Chu didn't want to, but the handyman leader was still very comfortable. At least he could do whatever he wanted. Look, it's just that you don't want to do it, it's not that I won't give you any benefits. As for the elixirs and weapons, you can earn points to exchange for them. Besides, you can grab them yourself, so do you still need me? If you need them, go to me. Sit, don't talk about trivial matters. After looking at Qin Chu, Luozhen took the people away. He knew Qin Chu, and Qin Chu would not leave his territory easily, and the leader of the handymen was very nostalgic. This is too inhumane. Qin Chu rubbed his head and felt that he was at a loss.